So, hello and welcome back to Politically Correct. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have an outstanding panel of town leaders, and these are all individuals who have run for town-wide races in the past, because tonight is our annual post-election analysis show. And with me tonight we have Sam Chase. How are you, Sam?
I'm fine, Tom. How are you this evening?
Great, thanks. I'm so glad you could join us again in our annual show. You've done this, I think this is your third time doing the post-election
I think
analysis
that's
show, but your 18th time on the show, Sam.
Amazing.
So getting used to it now, right?
I'm like a bad penny.
Yeah. And Sam, you're the chairperson of the Chelmsford Board of Assessors, is that right,
That's
Sam?
right. Mm-hmm.
And you're also town meeting representative?
That's
For
right.
many years.
Many years.
Former selectman in town?
Yes.
And are there any other committees or things
Finance Committee.
Oh, the Finance Committee, yes. That's a good one. Did you see Dick DeFreitas just talked about it at the selectmen's meeting last night?
I heard him last night, yes.
I guess looking for some applications if anybody would like to be a member.
Well, he wants the current members whose terms are expiring to reapply for the position,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I
that
saw
is
that.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Sam.
Oh, you're welcome.
And my good friend John Kurland's with us tonight. How are you, John?
I'm well. How are you, Tom?
Good, good, thanks, John. And John also, as we all have run for town-wide races before, as everyone knows, John has just completed his first term as a Chelmsford Board of Selectmen and recently a chairman, and he decided not to run for re-election again this year.
Right, my first and last term.
I said last time, yeah, of selectmen that we know of, unless you run again sometime. And also, you've been a long-time town meeting representative.
Yes.
And what precinct are you in now, John?
I'm
I
now
know
in
you
one.
switched.
Now I'm up
One.
against Sam, but
Oh,
I used
with
to be
Sam,
in
yeah.
five.
In five, yeah.
For a number of
So
years.
they switched it a year or two ago, right?
Right.
The precincts. So you're in one now. Huh?
Right.
That's not. And any other committees that you're on?
Well,
at the
Finance
moment?
Committee.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the Finance
You
Committee with
were
Sam.
on it, but are you still on it? No,
No,
you're not
no.
anymore. But you were on that. Great. Well, thanks for being here, John.
Sure, my pleasure.
Thanks. And we have my good friend Charlie Wojtas with us again. How are you, Charlie?
I'm just great, Tom. How about yourself?
Good. Good, thanks, Charlie. And Charlie has run for townwide office 3 times on the Chelmsford Planning Board. You served
Right.
there for 9 years, right, Charlie?
9 delightful years.
9 delightful years,
Yeah, it was so interesting.
Yeah, and you were
That's
chairman.
how I learned everything about zoning and wrote zoning and applied zoning, and then you just ignore it. If someone does something wrong, you don't say anything.
Yeah. And you're also currently serving on the Agricultural Commission, right, Charlie?
I think I'm on my second, third year term.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Why would they put a farmer on the agriculture?
I don't know, Sam.
No sense at all.
We should check too.
Probably
You
one of
were
those questionable town manager appointments.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not feeling good about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're there with Herb Cole is also on there, another farmer.
Yeah,
and, is Henry Parley on that?
Henry Parley
Yeah.
just joined.
Yeah.
Charlie Parley was on it till Henry got on it.
Yeah, nice.
So there always was a Parley,
Always
which
a
was
Parley.
fine.
Yeah,
And Phil Jones and John Swenson.
nice, nice.
It's a nice little board.
Yes, yeah. And also, you were a town meeting representative for quite a while.
Yeah.
And you had been in another precinct, but you just ran for Precinct 9 this
Right.
year because you moved. You bought a house in
Right.
Precinct 9 very recently, and you
Yep.
topped the ticket this year. So
9,
congratulations,
I
Charlie.
was number 1 out of 9, which was not
Number
bad.
1 out of 9, which is quite an
Not bad.
accomplishment, especially since you didn't campaign at all, too.
You never campaign for town meeting rep. That's how you lose, I think.
Okay.
I've seen people do it and lose.
Any other committees you might want to mention, Charlie?
Nope, I'm not on any more committees because that's plenty of time taken up.
Great, thanks, Charlie. And we have my good friend Pam Armstrong with us tonight. How are you, Pam?
Good, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being back. And did I mention that Sam was on, this is 20th, Charlie was on 20th time. So you matched your sister Pat tonight, because she also has been on 20 times.
She can be on as many as she likes.
Okay. No, otherwise we're in trouble, right? If
Right.
if
She'll
we do
yell at
something she
us.
doesn't like, right? And Pam, this is your 15th time on the show, so you're getting up there as well.
Yep.
And also, you are a town meeting representative this year. What precinct? are you?
Precinct 3.
Precinct 3, and you've been a rep for a long time,
Yeah,
right?
I was in 7 for a
7
long time till I moved to 3. Yep.
And you also were on the Chelmsford Planning Board for many years, right, Pam?
Yeah. Don't ask me how many, because I.
Oh, it's about 10, something like
10,
that,
yeah.
or something like that. You have been, you and Charlie both were chairpersons
Yep.
of that committee as well. Any other, you're on some other committees in town, aren't you, or?
Right
whatever?
now, no.
No?
I'm quiet.
But you are a Realtor, though, if you
Yeah.
might want to
Yeah,
mention
Realtor in
that, if
town,
anybody
yeah.
has any real estate concerns.
Yeah, any real estate concerns, any
or
real estate
whatever.
business? Give me
Yeah.
a call.
Yeah, you're very busy with
Yep,
that. I mean, you're
yep.
vice president, right, and
Yep,
everything,
the real
so.
estate sales division, yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for being here, and I guess, as you could tell by the title of the show tonight, it's a post-election analysis show. So we're going to be talking about the Chelmsford election, which occurred exactly 1 week ago today, on April 2nd. So I thought we'd start out with the selectman race. And as everyone watching at home probably knows, but I'll just remind you that Matt Hansen topped a ticket and won a seat as a re-election candidate with 2,085 votes. Janet Askenberg also won a seat with 1,700 votes. Janet was a former school committee woman, and she was a chairman of that committee the prior 2 years. Coming in a close third was Pat Maloney at 1,644 votes. Roland Van Loo came in fourth at 1,377 votes, and Bob Joyce came in fifth at 865 votes. So the top two, Matt Hansen and Janet Askenberg, won seats on that board. And Matt is the current chairperson of the board. And I watched the meeting last night, in the beginning of it anyway. Matt was doing a great job as a chairman. And for a young guy, I couldn't believe how well he did conducting that meeting. So congratulations, Matt and Janet. And maybe if we could start with Sam Chase on your overall thoughts of the selectman race, Sam?
My overall thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, you had asked us for predictions before the show. And I made some predictions, and I got the two winners, but I got the order wrong.
Yeah.
I thought Janet would top the ticket.
Yeah.
Matt did extremely well. And then I predicted that Pat would come in third, and Van Loo would come in fourth, and Bob would come in fifth. So there were no surprises there as far as I was concerned. The surprise to me was I really did think Janet would be the top vote getter.
Yeah.
Matt did extremely well, and he had waged a very, it's kind of a funny way to say it, but it was an aggressive campaign in terms of the effort that he put into it, but it was somewhat understated, and he didn't go after anybody or anything like that. And in a race like this, where you have two open spots, that's kind of a campaign strategy, because you want the other person's second vote.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think 4 of the candidates anyway tried to campaign that way. And I think it paid off. I think it paid off handsomely for Matt. But I think the campaign overall was very well run, and it was clean, and it was largely respectful. So
Yes, yeah.
I think that speaks well of the candidates and the campaigns that they ran.
Yes.
And certainly Janet, whose husband is a marketing and media specialist.
Yeah.
She certainly had wonderful materials. I mean, you certainly couldn't miss the large signs.
Yeah.
Those must have been right at the tolerance of whatever the spec is for size.
Yeah.
You know, but the colors were vibrant and,
Yes.
and very visible. So, yeah.
This is an example of Janet's button,
Right.
which is the large button. Matt Hansen and Janet both had the larger size campaign buttons, but Janet's signs looked something exactly like
Yes.
this, these colors and this design with the yellow, the blue, and the white and the red. And as Sam said, there were large signs that they held up in the center Saturday mornings, but they also had one at the Wilson block there permanently during the campaign, a large Janet Askenberg sign. So, yeah, they did great with the campaign literature, I thought, and the signs. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
We'll come back. We're going to talk in detail about every aspect of the campaign later on in the show. Charlie, your overall thoughts about the selectman
Well, I did
race?
the same thing you did, Sam. I predicted the first and second person, but I was wrong. I did
Oh.
predict Matt. I predicted Bob Joyce somehow because of name recognition, which I was totally wrong there. I lost a big bet to Tom over that. It cost
I
me
heard
a
about
lot
that,
of
yes.
money. But my overall thoughts, I'm glad the people that are in. I'm happy for them, and I know they'll do a good job because they're just excellent people. They're brilliant. They know what they're doing, and I'm just happy for the election in general.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Thanks. John, your overall thoughts about the selectmen race?
Well, I predicted that Matt would top the ticket. I also said that it was going to be very close between the top three. I thought that Pat would eke out a win over Janet. I think her name recognition helped her a great deal. I'm also wondering whether the fact that she was the only woman running may have gotten her some votes. I mean, when there's a 56 vote difference, every vote is key. The interesting thing I thought was that the two candidates who were really running heavily on tax issues came in 4th and 5th.
Yeah, that was Roland and Bob.
Yes,
Yep.
I mean, that's all they were talking about. I thought Matt handled the debates very, very well. Some of his, particularly the last one, the questions that he asked the other candidates was actually a brilliant question about their most important memories or having served the town.
Yeah.
Very insightful. And apparently he got, he worked very hard. He was doing a lot of knocking on doors and I think that any of the top three would have done a terrific job. So,
Yes.
and I'm sure Pat is not done in running for selectman.
Really? Have you heard? I don't know, but I mean, have you
Yeah,
heard anything
I
that-
think he's indicated that at some point
Okay.
in the future, whether it's next year or the year after, I think it depends on what Jimmy runs next year. I'm sure that he will be a formidable candidate. The year after,
Yeah.
I'm not sure George will be running, and
yeah.
I've heard different things about Pat, so I don't
Yeah.
know whether she will or not.
Yes. No, I agree, and I hope Pat does consider running again because he's done so much for the town over many years. He's a great guy, a very intelligent person, helps run his own business. So those are the kinds of people I think you want as selectmen sometimes. Seems to me, I'd love to see him run again, and I hope he doesn't get discouraged and not run again.
Well, he was
But-
actually pretty upbeat that this was his first campaign,
Yes.
and he
Yeah.
did very
He was.
well.
Yes, yeah.
Against a sitting selectman and against the chairman, two-year chairman of the school committee.
Yes.
For the one candidate who I think had the least name recognition, he did very, very well.
You did, yes. Yeah, thank you. Pam, your overall thoughts on the selectmen race?
Well, I also picked Janet and Matt to win.
Yeah.
I went back and forth a few times till we got close to the end, and then I finally gave you my prediction. And I think I agree with everyone that all three candidates ran a really good campaign, and it was interesting because a lot of different people supported different candidates. So sometimes it's split between two candidates. This time it was split between, I think, more like three.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of support behind each of them, and they all ran really good campaigns, and they all did, they had great efforts that went out.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad to hear that Pat's going to run again because I really think he'd be an asset to the town. I think he's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
I think Janet's going to do a really good job. She, she's done a good job in the school committee, so I think she'll do a really good job as selectman. And I think we've got a lot we're going to see from Matt. I think there's surprises ahead with him. I think he's
Yeah.
going to do great things.
Yes, yeah, and they all, they're very good candidates,
Very
you know,
good
that
candidates.
it was a very close race, and I personally feel bad for those who don't get in. I just think it's just so sad, because you put your heart and soul into
Yeah.
something, and you're out there, and it's not easy when you don't make it, And I know Pat came so close, and he put in so much effort. He had all these, in fact, a number of signs, which we'll talk about more later, but I thought he had maybe the most signs of all the Saturday morning sign holdings. Matt, I think, was close second, and Janet. But Pat, he put so much effort into it. And later we'll talk about all the mailings and everything, but it was just amazing. But as I said, he's a nice guy and a very intelligent person and is a good asset to the community, especially helping us bring in $17 million back on all those facility projects that he helped Honcho push through as one of the chairpersons of the Permanent Building Committee. And so he's still going to continue, as John said and others, working in these committees with the fire station and the DPW renovations and all that. So he's going to be very active.
Yep.
But just to quickly mention the turnout this year, we had 4,167 voters. and we have 23,912 eligible voters for a turnout of 17.4%, which we could maybe talk about later on in the show. But I thought next we'd quickly talk about the planning board alternate race, the only other contested townwide race. Jeff Apostolakis won that seat with 1,961 votes, and Nancy Arroway, who currently holds that seat as a planning board alternate, came in second and didn't make it at 1,449 votes. So I'll just leave this open. Any overall thoughts about the planning board alternate race?
Well, it seems like, I think the reason Jeff won is because he was on the committee with Phil Stanway, with the open space people, and he got more recognition around town, I believe.
Yep.
So I think more people knew Jeff, and that's why he won the race.
Yeah.
I'm just still surprised two people ran for the alternate seat.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
as Charlie and I know, the alternate rarely gets to speak on any of the projects before the planning board. So, you know, I guess Nancy, I think, should have run for the permanent seat where she's been the alternate. But I'm surprised that two people ran for the alternate because they talked a lot about their opinions of, you know, how they would answer different questions or projects, but
Yes.
they actually don't get to vote on them. So
I know.
their strength is lost there. I guess if you want to learn and your goal is to be on the planning board in the future, that's a perfect starting point. But if
Yes.
you're not going to go for a permanent seat, I'm not quite sure what the draw was.
Yes, I know. Well, Jeff wanted to get started in a town-wide
Yeah.
race, and I talked to him, you know, at the our winter farmers market about this, and he was thinking about maybe running for the full planning board seat. And then the next week he came back and said, no, I decided I'm going to keep going for the alternate. He didn't really say exactly why, but he just felt that was where he wanted to start
Yeah.
for townwide. But as he mentioned during one of the campaign forum/debates, he's eventually thinking about running for selectman at
Right,
some point.
right.
So that'll be interesting.
Selectmen or planning board?
Selectman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he mentioned that at the police station forum, and he told me that personally as well. But he may want to run for planning board next, though. I'm not saying that. And
Yeah.
then maybe selectman.
Yeah, at the Democratic one, he mentioned that he wanted to go to the planning board, but he wanted to use this as an opportunity to really learn the process and,
Yes.
and understand it a little bit more, so that should he be elected to the planning board, he's sort of prepared and up and running, so there's no learning curve.
Yes, yeah, and I do think that's probably
That's
his
a
plan,
good-
the alternate, then the planning board, and then maybe running for selectman. But he bought 35 signs for that, and you know, you probably saw the sign holding on the Saturdays, and he and his family were out there, and some friends holding signs quite a bit on Saturday mornings in the Chelmsford Center and in Vinyl Square as well, I think. Plus, there were many in the yard signs there of his. Nancy had a few signs, not as many, but she did a big mailing, I guess. I had a big letter a couple of days before the election that I received from Nancy, which was very nice. So she put a lot of effort into it too, and she was really hoping to get reelected there. Any other thoughts about this particular race?
Well, I think Pam articulated it
Yeah.
perfectly, and then followed up by John, because Jeff had told me the same thing. You know, when he considered it or reconsidered whether or not he was going to go for the full position, he felt that it was better to get into a mode where he could actually kind of apprentice himself and learn, which I
Yeah.
think is a terrific approach.
Yes,
You know?
yeah,
It somewhat shows your humility too. You know.
yes.
Well, I hope he does run in the future for the
Oh,
full
I do too.
seat.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
too.
I
I
do
think he'd be a
too.
terrific addition,
Yeah.
a full member to the planning
Yeah.
board.
He might have seen that there was Henry Parley, who was running this year, and he saw Ed Rue was running for re-election to the planning board, and maybe that's why he didn't maybe want to run and have a big race against those two individuals. Maybe that's why he decided that. Henry Parley did very well in almost topping the tickets of anybody in town. He got quite a few votes. He's got 2,873 for Henry Parley and 2,134 for Ed Rue.
Who doesn't like Henry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Am I wrong?
No, he
That's true.
does great things for
Yeah.
the town.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and but getting back to Jeff, I agree with you. He's gotten well known through the open space stewards and all. He's done a lot of work for them. He basically helps take care of the Hart Pond, Baptist Pond, whatever you want to call it, in South Chelmsford there, and he's cutting the grass and he's helping out the stewards in so many different ways. So he's also attended many of our town functions where I see him many, many times, and I've gotten to know Jeff very well, and I like him quite a bit. And he campaigns hard, though, when he runs. I mean, even on that freezing election day, which we had April 2nd, he was out there just about all day, and his wife was out there, his daughter, and maybe both daughters in different locations. It was just quite a bit of effort. But yeah, getting back to the planning board, any other thoughts about that planning board race where Henry and Ed Rue got elected to that? Henry for the first time, but he did very well with the number of votes, and Ed Rue got reelected there. On school committee, any other comments there on planning board before we move on?
I nailed the two winners. I knew the two who were going to win.
Okay, John.
Did the same thing with school committee. I'm two there.
Well, school committee, Evelyn Thorne was reelected. I think she's already served 15 years, which is great. She's putting a lot of time and effort into that position, and it's well-deserved. And Evelyn, congratulations. And also congratulations to Barbara Scar, who ran as a write-in last year, which is very difficult to win at a townwide.
She did well, though.
She did well last year, yes. But this year she did very well, and she, those were the two candidates for the two seats, Barbara Scar and Evelyn, and they both were elected and one re-elected. Any thoughts about the school committee race? No?
No, I think they're both great candidates, but what happened to the days where we had huge races for school committee?
Years ago.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, it was like a selectman race.
Yeah,
many
it
years.
was-
Remember with Judy Millette running, and her husband Steve used to help
Judy
her
and
run the
Evelyn would run
campaigns.
against each
Evelyn,
other, and it
yeah.
would be very, big races.
Yes, yeah. And let's see, well, I'll just mention a couple things. Eric Kaplan won for his seat on Board of Health, the only candidate running for that. Library trustees, my compatriots are colleagues on the Board of Trustees, both got reelected, Lisa Daigle and David Brashlow. I'll see them tomorrow night at our next meeting, so congratulations, Lisa and David.
Who's going to be chair? Do you know?
No, I don't know, but if she usually wants to
Put 'em
run
on the
again,
spot.
if she usually wants to run again, we usually, I think, just vote it to Maggie all the time. She's generally the one who who wants it.
Well, she's a
most.
professional librarian.
Professional
Right.
librarian, right, so she gets it, usually, if she wants it. So that's what I'm expecting. Cemetery Commission, Gerald Hardy got reelected to that, which is great. Constable Bill Spence got reelected to that, which he's a wonderful person. Congratulations, everybody. Housing Authority, I think Mary St. Hilaire topped the ticket from just about everybody with 2,897 votes for Housing Authority, that one position. Mary is our former town clerk, right? This is the same Mary St. Hilaire?
Yes.
Yes.
And so she's very well known in town and a very nice person. And can I turn the page? That's the question.
You have
No.
the pages.
Yeah, a lot of pages. Well, now, I guess that's it for the town-wide elections. And maybe I'll just leave this open for the town meeting rep races. And then maybe I'll talk about a few if you want to. But first, we'll have any comments about anybody who won or didn't win for town meeting rep that surprised you or that you...
I was just wondering, in precinct 2 and 3, there weren't enough. So did they get write-ins to get enough?
Yes.
They did,
Yeah.
and precinct 3, there's actually 4 who are tied with 2 votes each.
Yeah.
So they're going to have an election among the other.
It's
uh,
this Friday night
one-
at 5 o'clock.
They will?
4.
At the
That's
town-
interesting.
Town clerk's
Do
office.
they flip a coin or what?
No, you
John?
go to the town clerk's office. All the precinct 3 reps are invited to go.
Right.
And we go, whoever can go will go, and then there's a vote taken at the clerk's
So
office.
the 17 other reps would vote to see which of the 4
Yes.
would
They would
become the
choose.
Because I know in New
18th.
Hampshire, when there's a tie, they actually do go to the town hall and flip a coin.
Oh.
Yeah?
And
I
that
think
is
ours
the
is a
law.
little bit better than that.
I kind of like flipping the coin.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you, Charlie.
Yeah, let's flip
Yeah.
the coins.
And how many 4-sided coins do you have?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe they could go with the dice.
He
or I
knows.
don't know.
He knows.
But Richard Grove also won as a write-in for that one, but he happened to get 28 write-ins.
Yep.
So that's why he's probably out campaigning a little bit.
Which precinct is this?
This is precinct 3
Three.
again. So, and then Jackie Matskin won as the 2-year seat
Yep.
for that precinct 3. And she was on the board in the past, took some time off from it, and now is coming back on the board. Any thoughts about any of the other town meeting rep races? I know Charlie did well in precinct 9, topping the ticket.
Yeah, I've been in 3 precincts so far.
Oh, wow.
5, 2, and 9.
My God.
I think, I shouldn't say it, but I think 5's the best.
You do, really?
Because it has the most farms,
Yeah.
has the farm, has
Yeah.
the nice school.
Oh, it does. I mean,
Mhm.
South Chelmsford is beautiful, I think. I always say that.
Are there
'cause I-
now, after all of this, are there still vacancies in any of
Oh.
the precincts?
Well, that's a good question. I think there might be.
I don't think so.
There-
I don't think so.
There,
I
there
think
were
Okay,
enough,
maybe not.
there were enough
Yeah.
write-ins to
I
Yes.
guess. I
okay.
guess
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Bill Dalton
Yes.
got elected on
Yes.
a write-in campaign.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, he
So-
did.
His family was up there holding a sign for him.
Yeah,
up at
Ralph was
Harrington.
holding signs.
Yeah.
That was a labor
Yeah.
of love on that day.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, was it cold out there.
Yes. Yeah, Bill Dalton got 18 write-in votes
Right,
that
good.
day.
Yep.
So, yeah, so it looks great. And so why don't we get into the details and the nitty-gritty about the selectman race again and all these. For example, I brought the buttons in. Why don't we talk for a minute about the buttons here? I don't know if you could start getting some close shots, Matt, but this is Matt Hansen's campaign button. And it's a large one, but I don't know. Matt can't get it, so I'll wait for him to maybe get a one-shot or something. But Matt Hansen also had a nice
Excellent mailer,
mailer, and this
door tag.
he did a lot of.
Very good.
Oh, I guess we're getting the one-shot over here. So everything is the opposite there. So anyway, this is a nice doorknob hanger that Matt Hansen put together. And on the back, he has all kinds of information about his policies and his achievements and that kind of thing. So Matt, I thought, really ran hard, as they all did. But Matt, he also had a wonderful mailing. Did you happen to get this a couple of days before
Yes.
the election?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I received this in the mail, and about the Thursday before the election, before the Tuesday election, and I thought this is the first time I could recall seeing a postcard so large that you could actually put it in your back car window or something. You could tape it there if you wanted to. You could tape it on your house window. I was thinking if it was me, I might have put some suggestions on the back for what people could do, where they could post it, just to let them know. Just before the election, it'd be nice to put this out. And then in the back, he had all kinds of information about his campaign and his achievements and a couple of quotes from people. Any thoughts about, well, why don't I show some of the other mailings while we have the one shot. We have a nice postcard from Pat Maloney's campaign. You see the picture of Pat here in the front, and that was a good copy of his campaign sign. And he had some information there in the front, and then quite a bit of information on the back. So any thoughts about these mailings while I find some other ones? Any comments about those?
Well,
Or-
I mean, I think Matt's button was the same button he had
Yes.
in the prior
Yes,
election.
it
So,
was. Mhm.
Yeah,
so he was
Maybe-
being ecologically very conscious and
Yes.
recycling.
Yeah.
But the only one I thought who didn't use the traditional media things was Roland.
Yeah.
yes.
Just
Yeah.
a lot of emails and did anybody get anything from Bob Joyce in the mail? I didn't see anything, but
I didn't get a postcard, I know.
no. He had an ad in the Sun.
yes, a color ad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only thing I recall
Yeah.
seeing from
Now,
him.
here's an interesting question. Roland didn't do any advertising. He came in fourth.
Right.
What do you think would have happened if he had signs and mailings and people
I don't
in
think he would have
the
done any
center?
better.
You
No.
don't think it would have made any difference?
I think that he's got his constituency, and it's between maybe 15 and 1,800 votes.
Yep.
And I think that I think the people are no longer listening to everything that he has to say. I think he hurt himself in the Republican debate when they asked him to name 3 things that the town has done right, and he couldn't think of anything. I mean, you just drive through town, you can see the old North Town Hall, how great that looks. It was a historic building that was, people were considering demolishing it at one point.
Right.
The Center for the Arts, which was the old town hall, our bond rating has improved twice in the last 2 years. You know, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things that happened
Yep.
in the last 3 years. You know, we're finally getting a new fire station, whether you like the location or not. We're finally dealing with a problem that's existed since 1982, having a new DPW. You know, we returned money to the voters last year, 960,000 roughly, that went back to the voters. You know, and not to be able to articulate one positive thing. I think it hurts when a candidate has nothing positive to say.
Right.
Okay, I think you've got to be positive. I think you've got to be upbeat, and I think you've got to instill some sense of pride in our community. And when you don't do that, I think you turn people off.
Yeah. John, did you happen to see the Republican forum, or on TV or on the internet?
Well, that's the one I was talking about. When
Well, I think I watched it on the internet. And didn't he talk positively about our town clerk? And
right,
other things?
but then they said, well, we're not talking about specific individuals, because he
okay.
started to say, you know, well, we've got a lot of great workers, but then
Yeah.
when he was specifically asked,
Oh, okay.
you know, name a project
Oh, I see, a project.
that
I
was
see, yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Owen Arena's done a terrific job.
Yes.
I think I think I speak for everyone when we say how pleased we are with the work that she does.
Yeah, so Ona Rita is fabulous, I think. Now that we have that one shot again, maybe I could just quickly show the buttons. Here's the Matt Hansen button that we were saying was the same one he had in his campaign 3 years ago. So it's one of the large size buttons, blue and white. As we showed previously, this is Janet Askenberg's button. Whoop! With red, white, and blue and yellow. And, oh, sorry, her name in yellow there. And so Janet had a very nice button and large campaign signs. Then Pat Maloney's button was a small button in red, white, and blue. And that's Pat's button. And then Bob Joyce had some buttons in burgundy and white. And the burgundy is kind of the town high school colors, right?
Right.
The burgundy and white. So Bob Joyce for Selectmen, elect experience is his campaign slogan. So, so those were the buttons. And
The thing that surprised me about Van Loo is I think most people were expecting a mailing from him either the Saturday or the Monday before the election, because that's been what he's done in the past for his other types of campaigns, you know, mail something at the very last minute, and he didn't do that this time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what effect that might have had on the outcome. Right.
I don't know. But he did have a lot of the emails, though, that
Right.
some people were getting,
Right.
which at the end of them this time, I don't know if he did it last time, but this time he was saying, yep, please get out and vote for me on April 2nd. And he gave the reasons why he thought he should be elected. Plus, he did have quite a few campaign signs out in yards. In fact, as many of you might have noticed on the way up, he still has some of them up in the yards. So he might want to maybe take those down sometime.
So is it for next year, Tom? When he runs again? Because I think he will. I think he will.
You think he will?
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know. I don't know.
I'm wondering if the fact that he finished 7th in town meeting reps by 85 votes to the next, to the 6th, I think that speaks volumes about, you know, his electability. He's got his core constituency, but I don't think he can get much more than those people. And you know, he was bemoaning the size of the turnout. I think if the turnout had been higher, he still would have had the same, roughly same number of votes that he had before.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
The turnout was average. We usually, on a townwide election, when there are no other issues on the ballot, no ballot questions, no overrides, generally in Chelmsford it's between 15 and 20%. So that's where it was.
Yes.
Tewksbury just had a town election, and their turnout was only 13%.
Yeah.
So that's about, I mean, it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
good.
it's-
I wish it were
no.
more, but it's not an anomaly.
Oh, no,
17
you're
and
right.
a half is maybe a little bit on the high side of normal.
Yeah.
So-
Well, it's about average, you're right, because I
Yeah.
keep files on each election by year, and I went back a few years, and without a money issue there, like the fire station or whatever, this is average, the turnout that we had received. Matt, I don't know if you want to get a one shot again, and I could show Janet's postcard. But in the meantime, while maybe Matt's getting that, how about any overall thoughts about the debates? I know John mentioned how Matt did. How do you think the candidates did during the forums, I'll call them, because they were more timed forums rather than real debates?
No disrespect to any of the candidates.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Matt Hansen ran away with all the debates.
Yeah.
He was here, and the next person was here, okay? He just ran away with the
I
debates.
see, yeah.
He was calm, he was articulate, he didn't stumble, and he was in command of the issues and the facts. And as John said earlier, he had good questions for the other candidates, and he that's just my opinion. I think he clearly was the winner in all of the
Yeah.
debates.
Do you
Would
think it helps that he's a sitting selectman?
Without a
So,
doubt.
yeah, he has a lot of
Without-
knowledge about each of the questions asked.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I know when I ran the first time, I was awful. I was terrible. The second time, I was better. And the reason was because of what Pam just said.
Yes.
You have the confidence because you know the issues and you've
Yeah.
done the job for 3 years.
Yes.
And that certainly helped.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he had even more of an edge than that. I mean, it's just...
Well, this was also his third round of debates, too.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, but he really was outstanding, I thought.
Yeah.
I think Pat and Janet did a really good job not being on the board, knowing a lot of the
Yes, they
information.
did.
And
They did.
I guess I want to call them, they weren't one-trick ponies, where I found that Bob and Roland kept talking about the same thing over and over again. And there's so much more to being a selectman in this town than a one-issue candidate. And I think they hurt themselves, if they were serious, by just focusing on one thing over and over and over again. And I think Pat and Janet did a really good job at talking about different issues and being knowledgeable in different areas.
And Charlie, did you see any of the debates?
I went to the first debate, the CBA debate, and I do have a reason why maybe Bob Joyce lost, because I was obviously paying attention. There weren't a lot of people there, and Bob said, "I will never ever raise taxes," and then the question came up about 911, and Bob says, "Oh well, 911, we're going to raise taxes for that," so he kind of contradicted himself. Which I kind of caught up on. I don't know if anybody else did,
Yeah.
because he said he was a frequent flyer,
Yeah.
and he was all upset that the Trinity ambulance wouldn't get there in time, which made sense. But if you're going to lower taxes, you have to just lower taxes all the way. You can't just have exceptions.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, it's funny you mention that because both Bob and Van Loo said that they would not cut budgets.
They did.
So, yes, they did. So once you put that on the table, you don't, there really is almost no place to go for tax relief after that. Okay, now Bob's campaign was centered around when we have the free cash.
Right.
Once we hit the, whatever the number is that we say we have to have in our stabilization fund, anything in excess of that, I'll give it back to the voters. So he did articulate
Yes.
a plan for doing that.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that he said, I wouldn't cut any of the budgets.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
a funny thing for a tax reform candidate to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I see we have the one shot again. So I just wanted to quickly show up Janet Askenberg's very nice campaign postcard. We have the picture of Janet and her campaign sign on the front, along with some information. Her top priorities are, she says, I pledge to deliver accountable leadership, fiscal responsibility, and improved communication. And Janet was elected as clerk of the board last night. So, and Pat Wojtas, Charlie's sister, was elected as vice chairperson of the board, and Matt as chairperson, as I mentioned before. So hopefully it's going to be a very exciting board. I think, based upon how the meeting went last night, I think things are going to go very well. And I attended all the debates, and I found them very interesting and fascinating. I thought they all did a pretty good job, if not a very good job, as you've said. I thought Roland got hurt by not attending that last debate. He had something came up, and I don't know what, but it's just a few days before the election. Do you remember that? It was, I think, a Thursday before the election, and there were 4 people there at the police station training room, and there was the empty seat, and it just, it might have been hurt a little bit, Roland, by that non-attendance. But I thought they all articulated what they wanted to say, I thought pretty well. You know, I can't really criticize any of them for what they said. I think Bob was really on that lower taxes, and very often that does help a lot in campaigns, right? Because almost everybody wants to see their taxes lowered.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was a very formidable group of candidates, I thought. And, you know, running against with Matt and Janet and Pat, and the experience of Bob, too, and then Roland, his group that he appeals to. It was a tough group, so you have to really work hard to win. And
Let me ask you about the cards again, and I don't know if you guys remember this the way I do. Being old, this may be fuzzy. I remember getting Janet's card earlier.
yeah,
Do I remember
well, I
that
received
correctly?
mine
Well-
March 27th, which is the Wednesday before that's when I received mine.
For some reason,
There were some people that
Oh.
did cards that mailed them earlier than the,
all right.
the mass
Okay, so
majority.
these were
you
more
may-
like dear friend,
Yeah.
individual mailings,
Yeah,
because
there
I
were
got
some dear friends, and there were
Okay.
some, you know, overall mailings, and the overall mailing went out. It went out later
Okay.
than that.
Yeah.
So I think that you might have got a dear friend early.
All right, I
Yeah.
was surprised
Well-
that it came as early as it did.
But early, Janet had a nice letter that she mailed out. I don't know if you all received that, but it was prior to her campaign party, which was March 15th. So she sent this out and said why she was running and that, please attend my party.
Yeah.
And then she put a personal note sometimes on the mailing. So that was also very nice. I received that on March 7th. So, and I got one dear friend card this year, which was for the Pat Maloney campaign. I don't know why I didn't get too many others, but did you guys get a lot of dear friends cards this
No.
year?
I don't have any
No.
friends, so.
But I
Thanks.
Uh,
Wow.
you know, the other thing that we haven't talked about is the social media, and Pat and Janet and Matt all used Facebook a lot to get messages out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing much, if anything, from Bob, and Roland doesn't use it at all other than for purposes of email, which is not really social media. I don't know if that had any impact on anything,
Well-
but certainly it's another way for people
Yes.
to get their messages out.
Definitely,
It also
John.
adds in the newspaper. You know,
Right.
the-
Well, we'll talk,
Yep.
yeah, I guess we'll talk about all that too, but yeah, I thought the social media, using that was very good by Pat's campaign, Janet's campaign, and Matt's campaign. Bob Joyce did happen to have a site which I joined. I joined them all, a campaign site.
right, he did.
But Bob, he's working full-time, and he isn't that familiar with Facebook. He wasn't really on it much initially. Neither was Pat Maloney. But Pat's campaign had a lot, once he got on it, a lot of exposure on Facebook. And the group that I manage, Chelmsford Reps and Residents, I was pleased to see this year that many of the candidates were using it for their campaigns and talking about them having a campaign party tonight, or please get out and vote. Do you want to hold signs for me this weekend? You know, and all that kind of stuff. That's what it's there for. You know, if you're respectful to everybody, then please use that site, Chelmsford Reps and Residents. But Roland, I asked him about, you know, why don't you join Facebook? And he told me he didn't have time for it. So he didn't. But he did have an email that he sent out, like maybe twice a week on average, I guess, before the campaign. I haven't seen one since the election, though. Is anybody from Roland?
No.
No? Okay. Well, so why don't we talk about the emails? Any other comments about emails? I did receive a number of emails, which was nice, especially the week before the campaign about, you know, in fact, Pat Maloney's campaign, I thought, 8 days before the election, had even a template of a letter you might want to send out to your friends to support Pat Maloney, which I thought was a great idea, along with an email of support.
Janet also had that.
Janet had that, yeah, and so I think it was great. You use this; it's free. Why not use more emails? Any thoughts about the emails before we move on to something else?
Sometimes emails get annoying to people that use email for business, and you're trying to do work and you keep getting all these emails. I think staying with the Facebook, and when you have time, you
Yeah.
go there and see them there.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I'm not crazy about getting a number of emails all day long when I'm working.
I get over
Yeah.
300 emails a day.
Do
Yeah.
you really?
And it could
Sam?
be missed easily, right.
Oh, you never miss any of mine, though, do you, Sam?
I wouldn't dare.
Right, the Godfather will get you. See? No. No, here's the Godfather. Jim Lane gave me this, the Godfather at Chelmsford.
Is that Marlon Brando?
Marlon
Yes.
Brando when he played the Godfather. Godfather 1, 1972. So I keep it on for every show. I told Jim I'm always going to have it here with me. So how about the sign holding on Saturday mornings? Any other comments about that before we move on? And the signs in general?
Sign holding in the center, I think it's kind of a little out of control. Because you try to go through the center, I mean, the lights are nice, they help you go through. But if you have to like pay attention to the sign holders, I mean, I don't think it works very well.
The merchants don't like it.
Okay, the
The
merchants,
merchants don't like it in the
They-
center?
no.
I don't think a lot of people going through like it. I mean, I like to blow it up my horn and wave at everybody, but
Yeah.
but
Why is
I
that,
think
Charlie?
why is
do you
that?
think they don't like it?
Because you stand out there, it's 15 below zero, and if no one waves at you or blows the horn, you feel like going home.
Oh, so you
See, I'm
think it's
kind of
the
like
sign
on both
holders who maybe
sides.
don't like it? Or
No, I think the drivers don't like it.
why? Why?
Because it's just a distraction.
Right.
A
right.
distraction.
It is, you know.
But you know what? It's a necessary evil, so it'll always be there. So I'm gonna
Unless
live
we
with
have
it.
a bylaw someday against it, but
I don't
are
think
we,
you could do that.
John?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you could, it's free speech.
Right.
I
Free
mean,
speech.
I don't know if it changes people's votes or if people are influenced by sign holders at all. There was actually a funeral that did go through, I think it was the first Saturday that we were
I
holding
have been
signs.
in that too, and
And
everybody put the
unfortunately, everybody
sign
put the
down.
signs down. Some
Right.
people
Yes.
had to be told because they didn't understand the
Right,
protocol.
right.
But I mean, people were respectful, and people from. I mean, there's a socialization aspect of it too, so that even if your candidate is you're surrounded by people of other campaigns, you're talking and
course.
but it was that one day was brutally
Oh, it
cold.
was very cold that one day, I know. But when I go out there to take photos of everybody and talk to everybody, it is a lot of fun, I think, if you're a political person, to talk about everybody, see what's going on, and you know what I mean, Sam?
One thing, some people have told me, not with respect to a townwide race, but I've been told that if you're running for town meeting representative and you're on the ballot and you are not outside your polling place holding your own sign, I've had people tell me that that's a factor. They will only vote for you if they see you holding your own sign. Have you heard that?
Well, I know that people have said that to me, because I
Yeah.
always hold my sign if I'm running
Yeah,
for town
I
meeting
do
rep.
too, and
And I
that's
stay out there as much of the day as I can handle, or can get away from work for. But people will come and say that to me when I'm standing there. They always have for all the years I've run. So I
And they
agree
say
with you
what?
100%.
Say
That
what, Pam?
I'm going to
Don't-
vote for you because you're here.
exactly.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of times
It does
I
make a
don't
difference,
hold it,
I
but it
think.
does.
I've never had my own signs as town meeting rep or held them. So
Yeah.
Well, if
me
you did,
neither.
you'd top the ticket, that means, right?
no, because I'm up against you.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of that, it was very cold this year on election day, right? I mean,
Yes.
because I went out talking to people after I voted, and I was out there like 15 minutes. I felt sorry for them. They're freezing out
This
there.
is why I agreed to be a precinct warden, so I wouldn't have
Oh,
to
yeah.
stand out.
You could be outside, yeah. But
I was up at the Harrington, and everyone saw the wind would blow across the parking
Oh,
lot. We'd
that
have to
was
hide behind our signs because you get sand blasted in the face with all the sand.
you were holding for Janet, right?
For
Not
Janet.
for yourself.
No, I was
yeah.
holding for Janet.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
Harrington is the worst.
Brutal.
That is the worst
It
place.
is.
to
I was
stand.
I was holding for precinct 1 and 9, and it was, and
cold.
and it was cold. It was windy. I mean,
Yep.
the people who had the bigger signs,
Yeah.
they were like being almost
Yeah.
blown over.
How long were you out there, John?
I was just over there a little over an hour,
Yeah.
but I mean, I have to try to make a living.
Yeah, right.
So I
And
do what I can.
Yeah. Was Sam out? Were you out there too, Sam?
No, he was
No,
a
he was
poll.
a-
He was
yeah.
working in
Oh,
the
the
polls.
poll
was working
worker.
in the polls,
And how about
right.
you, Charlie? You weren't out.
I
in the-
didn't hold any signs because I knew it was going to be freezing that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not running.
Yeah.
No one asked me.
Yeah.
No one
I
asked me.
always said
Well-
farmers are the smartest people in the world.
I could have
You've just
volunteered, but I
you've just
didn't.
proven my point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Hey, you know what?
Well-
You're my friend now.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Well, we talked about sign holding in the center. What about the yard signs? From my perspective, it looked like Pat Maloney was up near the top, along with Matt, maybe with the most signs, and then Janet shortly behind that, and then Bob, and then Roland. What are your thoughts? And I thought there was a moderate amount of signs, but not too many. I thought it was a reasonable amount of yard signs. I like to see them during campaign season. I think it's nice, and especially if you're a political person, you like to see that they're trying for the votes and trying to get the name out.
The thing is that just because a person puts a sign in his yard does not mean that he will vote for that candidate. That's something I've learned.
That is amazing to me, though.
Oh, it's
Well,
happens a
actually,
lot.
I shouldn't say that because I had all 5 signs up in my yard.
there you are.
Yeah.
So-
No, but I did it because of the show, and to be fair to everybody, I said to everybody, well, you're welcome to put a sign in my yard, and which was great. Every one of them put the sign in, and then I took a photograph and posted it on Facebook with my house in the background, the 5 signs lined up. And I said, even though we're campaigning against each other, hopefully we could all get along together
You have such
in
a
one
heavily
town.
traveled road, Tom.
Right, right. But I think, though, with the picture on Facebook, though, a lot of people did get to see
Yeah,
it.
I did see
And
that.
I thought maybe we could make that a little tradition for the Chelmsford selectmen races. You know, if everybody wants to put a sign in my yard there, usually there's only 2 or 3 candidates generally, or maybe 4. And then we could just take a picture and post it on Facebook and ask everybody to get along, which is, I think, what we should do, right? We should all get along, right?
Well, you know what, I don't remember a really contentious, dirty selectman race. I'm sure my memory's not as good as some of yours, but, you know, when you were running, Sam, and before that, when Bill and Phil and you know, those candidates were running,
Yep.
they were always respectful, and I think it says a lot about our town and the
Yes.
people, because I don't think we would put up with someone who ran a disrespectful campaign.
Right, yes, yes.
So,
You know, I think even though we always don't agree on all the issues, pretty much in this town, everyone's friends. It doesn't divide our friendship because we don't agree on something.
Right, I hope not.
And even if you support somebody else in the election, it doesn't mean you're not friends with the people from the other, you know, party or the other
Yes.
group. That we, you know, maybe we'll all be together on the next one because we're all supporting one person. So I do think that's a really nice thing about Chelmsford is that we are very respectful. And
Which I hope so,
Yeah.
yes. And I try to encourage that a lot in that reps and residents page, as you know.
Yeah.
If people make disparaging comments, I make sure they know about it and delete them. Because we don't have time for that. We don't no time for it to be disrespectful for each other on a public venue. And that's a great thing about Facebook, by the way, because people post, they use their own names, right? Otherwise, they're not in the group. I wouldn't allow them in. But when you post on, say, the Chelmsford Patch or the Lowell Sun, you could put in any name you want, be anonymous, and they say the most vile, despicable things sometimes. And I think that's a degradation of our culture, I think, in our society. So that's a wonderful thing about Facebook, I think, that they generally use their own names.
I agree, Tom.
You know.
I've signed on as Tom Christiano on the patch several times.
And made disparaging remarks about Tom Christiano, right? You know? Well, newspaper endorsements, we didn't have too many this year. I don't think the Patch made any endorsements, nor did the Chelmsford Independent, because they have a brand new editor there, so that was good. The Lowell Sun did endorse 3 candidates for the 2 seats, the top 3.
They've done,
Matt?
they've done a lot of that lately. If you follow their endorsements in
Okay.
other towns,
Yeah.
they will say, well, we've got 4 people running for 2 seats and these 3 are okay.
Okay, yeah.
That's
That's
becoming
very-
very
yeah.
common with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so they endorsed basically Matt and Janet and Pat. And those were the top 3. So what do you think about that newspaper endorsement? Did you think it had any effect at all, or?
Well, my experience is that it has no effect because they didn't endorse me at all, and I did
won.
pretty well.
Yep.
So when
They
I
didn't
ran,
endorse you, huh? I don't-
Zimmerman's was the only one that you know endorsed me.
I hate
so
to
the
ask,
ind-
but do you remember who they did endorse, the Lowell Sun?
well, since it was Pat, Matt, and me, they endorsed Pat and Matt.
Okay, yeah.
So that's that's the way
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
But I mean, do you think that people really follow that? Do you think that they you know
No.
I don't know how much you know it's like having a celebrity endorse a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Well, it
you know?
lets you add that little tag on the bottom of your sign, which is better for the Sun to be able to have it on everyone's sign, and people say, oh, the Lowell Sun, maybe I should subscribe to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of an advertising piece for them when you get to add that to your sign on
Maybe
election
that's why
day.
they do it,
That's
you
a
know,
fair
'cause
point.
it was added to Janet's signs, right,
Yeah,
and to
yeah.
Matt's and probably Pat's signs as well, which you were holding, right?
It
Pat's
wasn't,
and Matt's.
yeah, Pat didn't have it on his sign.
No.
Pat didn't, but Matt had it on his, right?
Yeah, and Janet had on hers.
And
yeah,
Janet
they
had
both
on
it,
hers.
yeah.
Maybe that's why Pat came in third.
There you are.
Oh, and then both of you, I know, wrote letters to the editor. So what do you think about the letters to the editor this year? There were quite a few in favor of Pat Maloney, Matt Hansen, Janet Askenberg, and only a few, I'd say, for Bob. And I don't know, were there some for Roland, letters to the editor? I don't know, I don't recall. But what do you
Yeah,
think of the letters to the editor? Did they have an effect? You both wrote them, right, in favor of Pat and Matt, I believe, as I recall?
Mine was just for Pat, but
Just
yes.
for Pat, just for Pat.
Well, you know, I think it depends on who you are. I think that there are certain people in town who have a little bit longer coattails. You know, if you're, you know, an Angie Toronto, who everybody in town loves, his letters may have a little bit more influence than mine, for example.
You want Angie to write a letter for you if you're
Yeah.
running. That's
No, I
exactly
agree.
right.
Angie is a great person to write. You want somebody who, like, everybody loves and likes
That's right.
to write a letter. But I think you two, and you wrote one too, Sam, for both candidates, was it?
I wrote one
Yeah.
for Pat.
Just, oh, both of you
So you
just for
see,
Pat?
see how well we did for
Yeah.
Pat.
That didn't work.
Oh, my God.
That proves the theory.
Oh, jeez. But you both were big supporters of Pat's then, but I guess since you wrote the letters, that's
Right.
good, yeah. How about, you didn't write any letters to the editor,
I do
right?
read them all, but to me it doesn't really matter much because I kind of have my mind made up and I know the candidates pretty well anyways, so whatever you want to tell me, I probably already know.
I don't think
so
it makes much of a difference,
it
and I
wouldn't
think
matter.
the chief
Okay.
benefit of having a letter is just additional name exposure for the candidate.
I agree.
Really.
It's just additional advertising.
That's all it is,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're not there, it would be noticed that you weren't there. So it's important to have
That's
something
a
there.
very good way to put it. Yes, yes. I just think Pat really, the biggest thing he suffered from was the lack of notoriety.
I prefer name recognition.
Name-
Notoriety has a negative connotation.
You're right. You're right. I'll correct that. I mean, and not to take anything away from the two top candidates, but both Matt and Janet are in the media frequently because of their positions.
Yeah.
And I think it hurt Pat that most of his work for the town has been in the trenches, and it has not received the constant notoriety that being on a major board would receive. And
Yes.
I think that hurt him.
Yes, I agree. Well, we only have a minute left, and this year I didn't receive any robocalls at all. Did anybody receive any?
Thank God.
No?
No.
I guess the message has gotten out then, right? That a lot of people are turned
People
off
don't
by
like
them.
them.
So it's a waste of money if you do that.
Right.
I did receive 2 nice handwritten notes from Matt Hansen, who topped the ticket, but to me that indicates, 1, he's a nice guy, which I like. 2, how hard he was working for this. I mean, and I think somebody said he quit his job a month or 2 before the election, so he could be out there like knocking on doors and really working hard, holding signs. I mean, he was out there day and night doing a great job. Well, you all did a great job in this post-election analysis show, and I want to thank you again for being here. Thanks again, Sam.
You're very welcome.
Thanks again, John.
It's my pleasure.
We didn't get to talk about your plans for the future, but we will on the next show, John, okay?
You're
Thanks.
assuming I have plans for the future.
Yeah, right.
I haven't thought that far ahead yet.
You'll have to talk to Sarah about that.
Right, yes, yeah. I know we didn't talk about you leaving the board yet, but next time, we'll do it in the next show, okay? Thank you.
That's fine.
And thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome,
Congratulations again
Well, thanks.
for topping the ticket.
I was going to say, post-election is not too hard.
No,
You
it's
know,
not
it's all
hard.
done, so
It's
make up
pretty,
stories.
pretty easy. Thank you very much, Pam.
Thank you. I was glad to be here.
And thanks our wonderful camera crew, George and Azora. And Joe, is it our new camera person today? And our director, Matt Scott, who's also the director of Chelmsford Town Media and does a great job with us week in and week out. And if you have any comments on the show, hopefully all positive, please send me an email at tcristiano@comcast.net. I hope to see you around town, hopefully at the Chelmsford Historical Society annual dinner, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. You'll see that on Facebook. Tom Christiano, ciao.